It is 1954. On any summer evening, you could walk down any street in America and count the families sitting outside. Mrs. Henderson shelling peas, the Garcias playing cards, old Earl waving at everyone who passed. Then one day, they all went inside and never came back. Why did Americans stop sitting on their front porches? The question lingers in the silence of today's neighborhoods, where the old rituals of evening life have faded. The answer is not just a matter of nostalgia. It is about how ordinary choices, shaped by powerful forces, rewired the daily fabric of American life. In the 1950s, the front porch was more than an architectural feature. It was a stage for neighborly routines, borrowing a cup of sugar, keeping an eye on the kids playing in the street, or catching up with Mrs. Henderson as she shelled peas. These small acts built a kind of trust that did not need a name. Today, that trust is harder to find. The U.S. Surgeon General reports that a quarter of adults over 65 are now socially isolated, and 43% of all adults say they feel lonely. These are not just statistics. They are the quiet cost of a world that moved indoors. The story is not about a sudden loss of character or a collective decision to turn away from community. Instead, it is the sum of new comforts and conveniences, air conditioning that promised to let families escape the heat, television sets that turned the living room into the new gathering place, and new neighborhoods that traded porches for garages. Each change made sense at the time. Each one made it just a little bit easier to stay inside. What vanished along with the porch was the casual, everyday contact that once held neighborhoods together. The question remains, what did we lose, and was it inevitable? Three names stand out in the story of how American evenings moved indoors: air conditioning, television, and the Homeowners Association. Each one promised comfort, entertainment, or order, never isolation. Together, they rewrote the script of daily life so thoroughly that the front porch faded almost without protest. First came the hum of window air conditioners, sold to families as their ticket to escape the heat. Carrier, the company that made air conditioning a household word, didn't set out to dismantle neighborhood life. Their pitch was simple: why sweat outside when you could relax in a cool living room? By the 1960s, what started as a luxury became a reachable goal for millions. The porch, once a breezy refuge, was no match for a climate-controlled home. Then came the blue glow of the television set. In 1950, just 1 in 10 homes owned a TV. 10 years later, nearly every living room had one. The Ed Sullivan Show, I Love Lucy, and Gunsmoke turned Sunday nights and summer evenings into national rituals that unfolded behind closed doors. The porch, with its slow conversations and neighborly check-ins, lost ground to the instant thrill of broadcast entertainment. Finally, new neighborhoods began to take shape with different priorities. Homeowners associations and developers favored tidy facades, garage-fronted houses, and rules that nudged residents away from lingering out front. The porch shrank, then vanished, as regulations and design trends made it less practical and sometimes less welcome. These forces didn't act alone, and none were villains in the cartoon sense. But each one, in its own way, made it easier to stay inside. The next chapters will follow their rise and the quiet transformation they set in motion. Carrier's name began to appear in American living rooms long before most families could afford their own air conditioner. In the 1950s, advertisements promised a simple solution to summer's discomfort: escape the heat. For decades, this phrase appeared in print ads and catalogs, pairing the image of a family at ease with the promise of a cooled home. At first, the cost was out of reach. In 1956, a Sears window unit sold for $299.95, more than a month's wages for a factory worker. Air conditioning was a luxury, found in movie theaters and a handful of hotels, not in the average home. But by the early 1970s, the price of a window unit had slipped to a range of $150 to $450. Sears, Montgomery Ward, and local appliance dealers ran summer sales with bold headlines that said, "Escape the heat," and advertised window units from $149.95. Within a decade, the market transformed. In 1960, only 13% of American homes had any form of air conditioning. By 1970, that number had jumped to 36%, and by 1975, air conditioning was approaching the status of a standard household appliance. The effect was immediate and profound. Where once the porch offered a shaded refuge from stifling interiors, now cool air waited behind the front door. Families who once gathered outside after sunset found themselves drawn into the comfort of a climate-controlled living room. Carrier's promise was not sinister, it was seductive. The porch did not vanish overnight, but its old purpose of offering relief from the heat grew less urgent with every new window unit humming in the neighborhood. Television arrived as a quiet revolution. In 1950, only 9% of American homes owned a set. By 1960, that number had soared to 90%. The living room, once a place for reading or quiet conversation, became the new center of gravity. Networks designed their schedules around primetime rituals, and families responded. Sunday nights belonged to the Ed Sullivan Show, where a single broadcast could draw more than 20 million viewers. Monday evenings brought I Love Lucy, her misadventures echoing through houses from coast to coast. Gunsmoke, with its slow-burning Western drama, anchored the later hours, holding parents and children alike until bedtime. Television didn't just entertain, it organized the evening. The porch, with its slow dusk conversations and drifting music from a neighbor's radio, lost its pull. Instead, the blue glow of the screen promised spectacle, laughter, and a sense of connection to something larger, just not to the people next door. Nielsen ratings from the late 1950s show I Love Lucy and Ed Sullivan, capturing a third or more of all TV households. Gunsmoke's Thursday night slot became a national habit. The effect was magnetic. Even on summer evenings when the air outside was soft and inviting, the promise of a new episode kept families indoors. The television set was not just another appliance. It was a cultural force. It replaced the porch swing with the family sofa, the neighbor's greeting with a laugh track, and the shared watchfulness of the street with the private drama of the screen. The living room became the default gathering place, and the porch, once the public face of the home, faded into the background. Homeowners associations began to shape the look and feel of new neighborhoods in the 1970s, especially across the Sun Belt. Their rulebooks did not just keep lawns tidy. They often spelled out exactly what could and could not appear on a front porch. Homeowners association covenants from Texas to Arizona banned porch swings, benches, even simple chairs, classifying them as unsightly or disruptive to the uniform appearance of the street. Notices for miscellaneous items on front porch became a routine warning. At the same time, builders and developers embraced a new design, the garage-fronted house. By the late 1970s, more than two-thirds of new suburban homes featured a garage as the dominant face to the street, while porches shrank or disappeared entirely. The message was clear. The front of the house was for cars and curb appeal, not for people gathering. The porch, once a stage for community life, became little more than a decorative ledge. Trust, once woven through daily encounters, began to fray as porches emptied and neighbors retreated indoors. Robert Putnam's research in Bowling Alone traces a steady erosion of social capital from the 1960s onward. Civic groups shrank, neighborhood favors faded, and the habit of simply chatting with those next door became rare. The front porch had offered more than a place to sit. It was a silent network of watchful eyes, a deterrent to trouble, and a quiet invitation for children to play within sight of adults. Jane Jacobs called this eyes on the street, a form of natural surveillance that kept communities safer and more connected. Without these small, informal exchanges, loneliness crept in. Elders who once greeted passers-by from a porch chair now spent evenings alone. Children lost the freedom to roam under a neighbor's gentle watch. The cost was invisible at first, but it settled over entire neighborhoods, a thinning of the ties that once made strangers into neighbors. Carrier's 1950s promise to escape the heat brought comfort indoors, just as television drew 9 out of 10 families inside by 1960. Today, fewer Americans know their neighbors than at any point since Putnam's Bowling Alone. We didn't stop caring. We just stopped sitting where care could actually happen. Try waving tonight.